In a world where nations are increasingly interconnected, there are still countries that remain firmly closed to outsiders. These nations, whether out of cultural preservation, economic concerns, or national security, have made it nearly impossible for immigrants to settle within their borders. Join us as we explore 10 countries where immigration is either highly restricted or outright banned. Stick around, some of these countries might surprise you. Country 1. North Korea. North Korea, ruled by the authoritarian Kim dynasty, stands as one of the most isolated countries in the world. Its government maintains strict control over every aspect of life, and immigration is virtually non-existent. Foreigners who do visit are heavily monitored, and citizens face harsh penalties for attempting to leave. North Korea's government fears that any external influence, whether cultural or political, could challenge its grip on power. This strict isolationism is key to the regime's survival, ensuring that foreign ideas don't disrupt the rigid social order. For North Koreans, leaving the country is an equally difficult task. The regime views defection as a betrayal, and those caught attempting to flee face severe punishments. The government's paranoia extends to foreigners, whom it often suspects of being spies or agents of foreign powers. This fear is so deeply ingrained that even humanitarian efforts or diplomatic engagements are conducted under tight scrutiny. Immigration policies in North Korea are essentially non-existent because the regime prioritizes control above all else. The country's leadership believes that allowing foreigners into the country would pose a significant security risk. The idea of immigration is not even part of public discourse, as the regime continues to foster a culture of isolation, ensuring that both its citizens and its borders remain firmly closed to outsiders. Country 2. Bhutan. Nestled in the heart of the Himalayas, Bhutan is famous for its policy of gross national happiness, prioritizing the well-being of its citizens over mere economic growth. Despite this open and tranquil philosophy, Bhutan is highly selective about who it allows to settle within its borders. The Bhutanese government is deeply committed to preserving its cultural heritage, which is heavily influenced by its Buddhist traditions. As a result, immigration is tightly controlled, and the country is extremely cautious about opening itself up to foreign influences. Tourists are allowed into Bhutan under strict conditions, and those hoping to live or work there face even greater challenges. Immigration is viewed as a potential threat to Bhutan's social harmony, with the government fearing that a large influx of foreigners could disrupt the country's delicate balance between modernity and tradition. In addition to cultural concerns, Bhutan's focus on environmental conservation adds another layer to its restrictive policies. The government limits immigration, protect its pristine natural landscapes, and ensure that overpopulation doesn't strain the country's limited resources. For those seeking to emigrate, Bhutan offers little to no path to citizenship, while the country welcomes a select number of skilled workers. Long-term settlement is extremely rare. The government is keen to maintain Bhutan's unique identity, making it one of the most closed-off countries in the world. Bhutan's strict immigration policies reflect a deep-rooted desire to preserve its traditions and way of life, ensuring that its small population remains culturally and environmentally sustainable. Country 3. Japan. Despite being one of the world's most advanced economies, Japan is surprisingly conservative when it comes to immigration. The country's strict immigration policies are driven by a desire to maintain its unique cultural identity, which has been shaped by centuries of tradition. Although Japan faces significant demographic challenges, including a shrinking workforce and an aging population, the government has been hesitant to embrace large-scale immigration as a solution. Instead of relying on foreign workers, Japan has focused on domestic solutions, such as increasing automation and encouraging higher workforce participation among women and older adults. While there are avenues for foreigners to work in Japan, particularly in industries like technology and healthcare, the path to permanent residency or citizenship is incredibly difficult. Immigrants must prove their long-term commitment to integrating into Japanese society, including passing strict language and cultural tests. Japan's approach to immigration reflects its emphasis on social cohesion and maintaining cultural continuity. The government is cautious about introducing too much change too quickly, fearing that large-scale immigration could dilute the country's traditions. Although Japan is opening up slightly to skilled workers, its focus remains on ensuring that those who enter the country are prepared to fully embrace its values, making it one of the most immigration-resistant countries in the developed world. Country 4. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia relies heavily on foreign labor to fuel its economy, but despite the millions of expatriates working in the kingdom, the country remains one of the most restrictive in terms of immigration. Saudi Arabia operates on a system of temporary work visas, particularly in sectors like construction and domestic services. But these visas do not lead to permanent residency or citizenship. The government views this workforce as transient, meant to support economic growth, without permanently settling within its borders. Saudi Arabia's strict immigration policies are rooted in its desire to preserve its Islamic culture and maintain a clear distinction between Saudi nationals and foreign workers. The government fears that allowing large numbers of non-Saudi residents to settle permanently could disrupt the kingdom's demographic balance and challenge its cultural identity. Citizenship is only granted in extremely rare cases, and even long-term residents have little hope of becoming citizens. The government's focus is on maintaining Saudi Arabia's political and social stability by limiting the ability of foreigners to settle permanently. Saudi Arabia ensures that the country's wealth and resources are primarily reserved for its citizens. While expatriates play a critical role in the kingdom's economy, their presence remains temporary, and the doors to citizenship remain firmly shut for most. Country 5. United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates is home to one of the largest expatriate populations in the world. Yet the country remains steadfast in its policy of limiting permanent residency and citizenship. While millions of foreign workers contribute to the U.S. economy, particularly in sectors like finance, hospitality, and construction, there is no clear path to citizenship for the vast majority of expatriates. The government has introduced programs like the Golden Visa, which grants long-term residency to investors and highly skilled professionals. But even these programs do not offer a route to citizenship. The U.S. immigration policies are driven by a desire to maintain a demographic balance where Emirates remain the majority. Despite the economic contributions of foreign workers, the government is cautious about allowing them to settle permanently, fearing that it could dilute the country's cultural and social identity. The U.S. leadership places a strong emphasis on preserving its Islamic values and Arab traditions, which they believe could be challenged by a large, permanent foreign population. As a result, expatriates in there are considered temporary residents, no matter how long they have lived in the country. The government's focus is on ensuring that the country's wealth and resources are primarily for the benefit of Emirati citizens. While foreign workers are vital to the U.S. economy, their stay is seen as temporary, and the opportunity to become citizens remains out of reach. Country 6. Kuwait. Kuwait, much like its Gulf neighbors, relies heavily on foreign labor. Yet the country has some of the most restrictive immigration policies in the region. The vast majority of expatriates in Kuwait work under temporary contracts, with no pathway to permanent residency or citizenship. The Kuwaiti government is determined to maintain its demographic balance, ensuring that Kuwaitis remain the majority in their own country. As such, immigrants, regardless of how long they have lived or worked in the country, are rarely granted citizenship. Kuwait's strict immigration policies are tied to its desire to preserve its national identity, which is deeply rooted in Arab and Islamic traditions. The government fears that allowing large numbers of immigrants to settle permanently could disrupt the country's social and cultural fabric. As a result, even highly skilled workers or those with significant investments in the country find it nearly impossible to obtain citizenship. While Kuwait offers a relatively high standard of living for its expatriate workforce, the government makes it clear that their stay is temporary. Foreign workers are essential to Kuwait's economy, but the opportunity to become a citizen is reserved for a select few, typically those with Kuwaiti ancestry or individuals who have made extraordinary contributions to the country. Country 7. Hungary. In recent years, Hungary has become known for its nationalist policies, particularly when it comes to immigration. The country, led by the right-wing Fidesz party, has taken a hard stance against allowing immigrants, especially those from non-European countries. Hungary's government is focused on preserving the country's Christian identity and sees large-scale immigration as a potential threat to its cultural heritage. The government's tough immigration policies were solidified during the European migrant crisis, when Hungary built border fences to prevent the influx of refugees from war-torn regions. Many Hungarians support these measures, fearing that immigration could lead to social tensions, strain public services, and undermine national security. Hungary's leadership has framed immigration as a cultural and economic risk, leading to some of the strictest policies in Europe. Hungary's approach to immigration reflects a broader trend of nationalism in Eastern Europe, where governments are increasingly focused on protecting national sovereignty and identity. The country's immigration policies ensure that only a small number of immigrants, particularly those from within the European Union, are allowed to settle. For non-Europeans, the chances of gaining residency or citizenship in Hungary are slim to none. Country 8. Poland. Poland, like Hungary, has adopted a highly restrictive approach to immigration, particularly from Muslim-majority countries. The Polish government, led by the nationalist Law and Justice Party, has framed immigration as a threat to national security and cultural identity. While Poland is open to immigrants from within the European Union, it has been highly resistant to accepting non-European migrants, especially during the height of the European refugee crisis. The Polish government has justified its strict immigration policies by pointing to concerns over terrorism and social cohesion. Poland's immigration stance is deeply rooted in a desire to protect its cultural and religious identity, which is heavily influenced by its Catholic heritage. The government argues that allowing large numbers of non-European migrants, particularly from Muslim-majority countries, could disrupt Poland's societal fabric. These concerns resonate with a significant portion of the Polish population, who feared that immigration could lead to increased social tensions and strain public resources, such as healthcare and welfare systems. Framed these policies as necessary to ensure that immigrants are able to integrate into society and contribute to the country's economy. Denmark's restrictive immigration policies have sparked debate both within the country and internationally. Supporters argue that these measures are essential for maintaining social cohesion and protecting national security, while critics claim that they marginalize immigrant communities and undermine Denmark's reputation as a tolerant and open society. Regardless of the controversy, Denmark's immigration laws have become some of the toughest in Europe, reflecting a broader trend towards restricting immigration across the continent. From North Korea's near-total isolation to Denmark's increasing restrictions, these 10 countries have adopted immigration policies that reflect a deep desire to control who can and cannot enter their borders. Whether driven by concerns over national security, cultural preservation, or economic stability, each country on this list has crafted immigration laws that make it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for outsiders to settle, while some nations welcome newcomers with open arms. These countries have drawn a firm line, making them some of the most challenging places for immigrants to call home. As we've explored, the reasons behind these restrictive policies are as varied as the countries themselves. In some cases, it's about maintaining a unique cultural identity, while in others, it's about ensuring political stability and security. What unites them all, however, is a determination to preserve what they see as essential to their nation's character. So, if you're planning on moving abroad, you might want to cross these countries off your list. Stay tuned for more insights into the fascinating world of immigration, global politics, and cultural preservation, right here on Discover the Earth.